Welcome to Fatherhood, the Power of Presence podcast. I'm Neville F. Solomon, author of How to Sabotage Your Children. Every week, we explore practical ways to strengthen fathers, build healthier families, and leave a legacy that lasts. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started.
Usually when we talk about the climate of a home, we're talking about the literal physical environment.
Right, the actual thermostat in the hallway.
Yeah, exactly. The thermostat.
Yeah.
Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Did somebody leave the windows open again?
Yeah.
And we like to think we have total control over that temperature,
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's incredibly measurable. You literally have a number on a screen.
Right, you just walk over, turn a dial, and boom, you feel the air conditioning kick on. But then, if you step into the world of the emotional climate of a home, suddenly that thermostat is completely hidden.
It's totally invisible.
It is.
Right.
We're looking at an environment that is built entirely out of, invisible reactions, unspoken rules, and these deeply ingrained habits. So today, we're doing a deep dive into inherited patterns. We're trying to find that really subtle, honestly often blurry line between genuinely teaching our children and accidentally terrifying them.
Which is exactly what makes the source material for today so vital. We're pulling from Neville F. Solomon's work, specifically his audio series, The Anatomy of Fear, and his book, How to Sabotage Your Children.
Yeah, heavy titles.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
He tackles this really uncomfortable reality. And, right out of the gate, I think we need to set the tone for you, the listener.
Definitely.
We are absolutely not here to point fingers. This is not some exercise in blaming fathers or shaming parents who are honestly just trying their best.
If parenting is hard enough as it is.
Exactly. So this is just an objective, empathetic look at human behavior. We're examining the complex emotional ecosystems we create in our living rooms.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really get to the heart of what Solomon is exploring, we kind of have to start by holding up a mirror.
Yeah, we do.
So think about this. Have you ever found yourself doing the exact thing you promised yourself you'd never do as a parent? Right. Like you swore you wouldn't use that tone or, that specific phrase your own parents use, and suddenly it just comes flying out of your mouth.
That is basically the universal parenting experience, isn't it?
It really is.
And I mean, it happens because our default reactions are hardwired into us long before we ever actually have kids of our own. But to understand how intimidation quietly creeps into a home, we have to completely redefine our understanding of what fear actually looks like.
Because when we hear the word fear, our brains immediately jump to a dramatic movie scene.
Shouting, slamming doors.
Yeah, broken plates, physical intimidation, all that. But fear in a household rarely announces itself with a bullhorn. It is so much quieter.
It's incredibly subtle.
It's often completely invisible to anyone outside the family.
Yeah, fear can literally just be the sound of a father's footsteps coming up the driveway. Or, the crunch of tires on the gravel outside. Or even just the specific way a key turns in the front door lock.
Just that tiny sound.
Just that auditory cue alone. It can prompt a child to immediately start monitoring the mood of the house. Their developing brain goes into absolute overdrive trying to assess the threat level.
Like, is Dad angry today?
Exactly. How was his day at work? Can I ask him for help with my math homework right now, or should I just wait?
Or, what's going to happen if he finds out I broke that glass in the kitchen earlier?
Right. It's the heavy sigh from the living room. It's just a look across the dinner table.
Or sometimes it's not even a look, right? It's emotional withdrawal.
The silent treatment.
Yeah, the silent treatment. Which makes a child feel like love and acceptance are totally conditional on their perfect behavior. And so what ends up happening is the children are forced to adapt.
They have to.
They become basically survivalists in their own homes. They become overly quiet. They start hiding things. And they start telling half-truths just to keep the peace.
And that brings up a really crucial distinction we have to make here between healthy discipline and fear. Because they might look similar on the surface.
For a quiet kid, looks like a good kid.
Yeah, exactly. But the underlying mechanisms are completely different. Like healthy discipline says, hey, there are consequences to your choices, and I'm going to help you understand them so you can grow.
Right. It's supportive.
But fear operates on a totally different frequency. Fear says, do what I say because you do not want to see what happens to you if you don't.
Wow. It's like the difference between navigating with a compass and navigating a minefield where the map changes every single day.
That's a great way to put it.
If you live in the minefield, you never know where it's safe to step, so you just freeze.
Yeah.
But, okay, that brings up a huge blind spot for parents.
It is.
Well, if a parent looks at their beautifully quiet, well-behaved children and says, My kids are so obedient they never talk back. How can they actually tell the difference between a child having genuine respect for the boundaries of the house and a child who is just operating on pure survival instincts?
Honestly, that is the pivotal question of this entire deep dive. And to find the answer, you really have to look at the origin point.
Okay, meaning the parent.
Meaning the parent. If fear is the quiet, adaptive result in the child, the origin is how the parent processes and expresses their own internal frustration.
Right.
We're talking about what happens when an adult's unregulated emotion literally becomes the atmosphere the child has to breathe.
But anger itself isn't the villain here, right? Anger is just a normal biological emotion.
Oh, absolutely.
A parent can absolutely be angry without being frightening.
Yeah.
Like you could look at your kid and say, I am very disappointed with what just happened and we are going to talk about it. That's perfectly fine. It's honest and it addresses the issue.
Exactly. Contrast that healthy, bounded expression with the phrases that actively trigger a child's fight or flight response.
Right, the stuff that really instills that fear.
Things like, how many times must I tell you? Or, what is wrong with you?
Oh, man.
Or the classic generational trope, wait until your father gets home.
Which is awful because it essentially suspends the child in a state of terror for 6 hours. It turns the arriving parent into an executioner rather than a guide.
It really does.
But I do have to push back on this a little bit, just on behalf of the listener.
Sure, go for it.
If my kid runs out into traffic, or plays with a hot stove, or does something genuinely dangerous, my adrenaline is going to spike. I'm going to yell. Isn't a loud, angry reaction sometimes just a biological reflex to protect them?
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
So how do we separate natural protective panic from accidentally creating a toxic environment of fear?
The distinction really lies in predictability and the baseline stress of the home.
Okay, baseline stress.
Right. A sharp, loud reaction to immediate physical danger, like a kid running into the street, that's a protective reflex. The child's nervous system spikes, but once they're back on the sidewalk and safe, the adult's nervous system settles down.
And then they can comfort the child.
Exactly. The baseline returns to normal. But what Solomon is warning against in the sources is a baseline of chronic anticipation.
Ah, I see.
It's one thing to yell stop when a car is coming. It's another thing entirely when a child is forced to live in a constant state of hypervigilance, trying to predict an unpredictable adult's everyday reactions to, spilled milk or a missing shoe or a bad grade.
So when the environment itself is angry, children just don't feel emotionally free. They're constantly watching and listening, just trying to gauge if it's safe to exist in that room.
And the tragedy here is the disconnect between intent and impact.
Because the parents don't mean to do it.
Right. A father might genuinely believe he's doing the right thing. He might think, I'm teaching respect, I'm building character, I'm preparing them for a tough world.
But the psychological toll tells a completely different story.
It does. The child isn't learning respect at all, they're learning avoidance. They're internalizing this deeply flawed belief that says, my primary job is to keep dad happy so that I can feel safe.
And living in that constant state of anticipation, it doesn't just evaporate when the child leaves the room, or even when they move out of the house for good.
No, it sticks with them.
It fundamentally rewires how their brain handles stress and relationships as they grow.
Yeah.
And this is where the hidden damage really starts to manifest, and the sources say it shows up in 3 very specific ways.
Right.
Let's look at the first one, which is anxiety.
Yeah, so when a child's developing brain is constantly marinating in cortisol, the stress hormone, because they're hyper alert to adult moods, they develop a profound fear of disappointing people.
It's exhausting.
Their brain literally maps the world as a place where authorities are volatile and must be placated. So when they become adults, this bleeds into everything.
How so? Like at work?
Yeah, it dictates how they handle a demanding boss, how they respond to constructive criticism, and how they navigate conflict in their own marriages. If their spouse gets quiet, they might immediately panic and assume they're in trouble just because that was the role of their childhood home.
That makes so much sense. It's a kind of exhaustion that just carries over into adulthood. And that actually ties directly into the second hidden impact, which is low self-esteem. When a child hears repeating criticism, phrases like, you're useless, or you never get anything right, or why are you so lazy? Eventually, this devastating shift happens. That stops sounding like the father's voice, and it becomes the child's own internal voice.
It becomes their inner narrator. The psychological principle here is that correction must address the specific behavior, not destroy the core identity.
Right. What you did versus who you are.
Exactly. Saying what you did was wrong, and here's how we fix it, leaves the child's identity intact. But saying, you are a bad child, fundamentally fractures it.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell a kid they're fundamentally a bad person or lazy or useless for long enough, they just stop trying to be good.
Why would they try?
Right. They think their character is fixed. Why put in the effort to change your behavior if you believe you are just inherently broken?
Precisely. If they believe their core is flawed, they just abandon the pursuit of virtue. Which brings us to the third impact of this environment, fear-based obedience.
Okay, this is an interesting one.
When children only behave out of a fear of punishment, they miss the crucial developmental step of forming internal values. They aren't learning why a rule exists, they're only learning the penalty for breaking it.
Right.
So what happens when the authority figure isn't watching?
It's exactly like a driver passing a speed camera on the highway.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Think about it. People are flying down the road at 20 miles over the limit. The radar detector goes off, they see the camera, and they instantly slam on the brakes.
Yep.
And for that 1 mile, they are the most obedient driver in the world. But the second they are past the camera's line of sight, boom, they speed right back up.
Exactly.
They haven't learned safe driving. They don't value the safety of the people around them. They've only learned how to temporarily manipulate their behavior to avoid a fine.
That is spot on, because the speed camera relies entirely on external regulation. What healthy discipline aims for is internal regulation.
Right.
There is just a profound psychological difference between teaching compliance and teaching values. A child who is taught values understands that they can make a bad choice and face a consequence without believing they are fundamentally a bad person.
Yeah.
But if you only teach compliance through intimidation, you haven't taught them how to navigate the complex moral world. You've only taught them how to navigate you.
Wow. And that fear-based obedience just completely falls apart the moment the child goes to college or moves into their own apartment.
The camera's gone.
The camera's gone, so they floor it. So recognizing all of this, the anxiety, the fractured self-esteem, the fake obedience, how do we actually intercept this process?
That's the big question.
In the heat of the moment, when the milk is spilled across the laptop or the window is shattered by a baseball, what is the actual mechanism for doing this right?
The mechanism starts entirely with the parent, not the child. It all comes down to emotional regulation. The fundamental non-negotiable rule is this: before you can ever hope to regulate your child's behavior, you must first regulate your own nervous system.
So put your own oxygen mask on first.
Exactly. You have to recognize that sudden spike in your own anger, the heat rising in your chest, and utilize what psychologists call the power of the pause.
The power of the pause. It sounds simple, but I imagine it's incredibly difficult in practice.
It is arguably the hardest part of parenting. Because it requires the self-awareness to stop and say out loud to your child, I am very angry right now. I need a few minutes to calm down before we continue this conversation.
Yeah, that takes a lot of restraint.
It does. And Solomon makes a beautiful counterintuitive point here. Stepping away in that moment is a supreme sign of leadership, not a sign of weakness.
But let's dig into the biology of why that is so hard. Because when your kid does something defiant or destructive, your adrenaline spikes.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like an evolutionary imperative to react immediately. Walking away feels like you're losing the battle. It goes against our entire fight-or-flight nervous system to just stop, take a breath, and leave the room.
You are absolutely right. When that adrenaline hits, you're experiencing an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack.
Yeah, the primitive emotional center of your brain is just screaming at you to fight, to dominate the situation, to yell and reestablish control.
Right.
So walking away requires your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical reasoning part of your brain, to essentially clamp down on the amygdala and say, no, we are not going to operate on instinct right now.
Which is physically exhausting.
It is, and it feels like losing in the moment, but think about what you're actually modeling for your child.
Right. You're showing them how a mature human being handles overwhelming emotion. A child doesn't learn emotional regulation from a lecture.
Never.
They learn it by watching their deeply frustrated, red-in-the-face father choose to close his eyes, breathe, and speak calmly instead of just exploding.
They learn in real time that experiencing strong emotions does not mean those emotions get to control your behavior. You can feel rage without acting ruthlessly. I mean, that is a masterclass in emotional intelligence.
And it doesn't mean you're letting the kid off the hook either.
Not at all.
You can still have incredibly firm correction. You can come back into the room 5 minutes later and say, I love you, but I will absolutely not allow you to speak to your sibling that way, and here is your consequence.
Exactly. The boundary is rock solid.
The consequence is enforced. But the crucial difference is that the child's spirit isn't being crushed in the process. Discipline teaches a lesson. Intimidation just controls the moment.
And regulating yourself in the short term serves a much more vital long-term goal.
Right, looking ahead.
Yeah, you aren't just trying to survive a Tuesday night tantrum. You're trying to construct an emotionally safe harbor for when your children face massive real-world crises down the line.
Let's expand on that emotional safety harbor, because this is where the stakes elevate from, childhood annoyances to life-altering adolescent events.
Oh, yeah.
Emotional safety means creating a home environment where kids can make huge mistakes and still deeply, fundamentally know they are loved. When a teenager messes up, say they dent the family car, or they find themselves at a party where things get really out of control, their very first thought should be, I need to call dad, not, how do I hide this from dad?
And why is that pivot so crucial? Because your children will inevitably face situations that you, as the parent, have absolutely no control over.
Right, you can't protect them from everything.
You can't. They're going to face intense peer pressure. They're going to navigate complex romantic relationships, make difficult financial decisions, and deal with career rejections. They're going to experience failure on a grand scale. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
It's like the parent is a lighthouse in a storm.
Yeah.
The teenager ship is taking on water. If the harbor around that lighthouse is full of explosive minds, meaning your historical anger, your intimidation, your tendency to shout and demean them, that teenager is going to look at the harbor and say, no thanks. Yeah. The child will choose to ride out the storm entirely alone at sea, even if it's incredibly dangerous and they're sinking, rather than risk coming home and dealing with the inevitable explosions.
That is a very sobering image, but it perfectly encapsulates the physical reality of these emotional dynamics. The quality of your parent-child relationship today dictates the direction your child will run tomorrow.
Right.
When life gets difficult, do they move toward you or do they actively run away from you?
Which leads to the final piece of this puzzle. If the blueprint for healthy discipline is so clear, like if the neuroscience tells us to pause, if psychology tells us to regulate, and if we know we need to create this safe harbor, why do so many parents find themselves failing at it?
Because they're fighting against ghosts.
Ghosts.
Yeah, they're fighting against deeply ingrained, inherited patterns of behavior. Most parents, particularly fathers who rely on intimidation, didn't just invent their parenting style out of thin air.
They learned it somewhere.
They inherited it. They inherited it from their own fathers, from homes where shouting was just considered normal communication.
Right.
They grew up in homes where discipline always involved fear, where vulnerable emotions were hidden or mocked, and where genuine apologies from adults were completely non-existent.
The whole, I was spanked and yelled at and I turned out fine mentality.
Exactly. But surviving a toxic environment doesn't mean it was the optimal way to grow.
Good point.
The incredible beacon of hope that Solomon offers in the sources is that the cycle isn't a life sentence. He states beautifully that your history does not have to become your children's destiny.
I love that.
Parents have the agency to recognize these generational currents, stop, reflect, and actively declare, this stops with me. And that kind of transformation isn't some dramatic overnight enlightenment.
No, it's work.
It's a series of incredibly small, consistent, daily decisions.
And I think one of the most powerful of those decisions is the simple, yet often terrifying act of apologizing.
Oh, absolutely.
I know a lot of parents feel like apologizing to a child is basically surrendering their authority. It feels like giving up the high ground.
Right, like they're losing control.
Yeah. If you say, I'm sorry I yelled, you're admitting you were wrong. And some parents think that makes them look weak in the eyes of their kids. But the reality is the exact opposite. Apologizing actually builds the only kind of authority that has any staying power, which is trust.
Exactly. When a parent looks at their child, acknowledges a mistake, and genuinely apologizes without making excuses, they are actively rewiring generational trauma.
That's powerful.
They're showing their child that authority doesn't require perfection. It requires accountability. Because ultimately, children do not need fathers they are afraid of. They need fathers they can trust.
So as we synthesize all of this, the core realization here is that children learn far more from observing a parent's reactions than they ever will from a parent's carefully worded instructions.
100%.
They're constantly watching how you handle your own anger, how you handle stress, and how you handle failure.
And because of that, there is a very specific, actionable challenge that comes out of Solomon's work.
Let's hear it.
This week, Try to replace just one angry response with a constructive conversation. Just one. You don't have to be perfect all week.
Right, baby steps.
But when you feel that familiar frustration rising in your chest, when the amygdala starts firing, force the pause. Take a breath, lower your voice, ask your child what happened, and just listen to their answer without interrupting.
Because being a good parent isn't about never making mistakes. It's about being willing to recognize those mistakes, learn the mechanisms behind them, and do the hard work of changing course.
Exactly.
We talked earlier about how a parent's repeated angry criticism can eventually become a child's own internal voice. The criticism echoes in their head long after they've left home. But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Imagine the reverse of that. If you consistently do the hard work to model calm, emotionally regulated responses when things go wrong, when your child eventually faces a massive, overwhelming crisis as an adult, whose voice will they hear in their head? Will they hear panic, shouting, and condemnation? Or will they hear your calm, steady resilience guiding them through it? You are the one setting the emotional thermostat in your home. The choice of what climate you create and what voice you ultimately give them is entirely up to you.
As we close today's episode, remember this. Children don't just grow up in a home, they grow up from it. If you'd like to learn more about my workshops, corporate wellness programs, church seminars, or order a copy of How to Sabotage Your Children, I'd love to connect with you. Contact me on +278 3417 0319. Until next time, I'm Neville F. Solomon, reminding you that fatherhood is more than provision. It is the power of presence. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.